Before you close your eyes tonight, before the weight of the day settles on your shoulders, I want you to pause, because something extraordinary is moving toward you in this very moment. There are nights that end quietly, and then there are nights like this, nights that carry divine fingerprints, nights that come wrapped in the unexpected, nights where heaven leans in close to rewrite the atmosphere around your life. Tonight is one of those nights. As you listen, I want you to feel the shift, sense the stirring, and recognize that you're standing on the edge of surprise you didn't see coming but deeply needed. You may have dragged yourself through today, but you will not enter tomorrow the same way. This is a night God steps in where your strength stepped out. This is a night He visits the places you cannot fix, heal, or understand, and begins to move in ways only He can. There are moments when life becomes so loud that you lose sight of the quiet ways God works. You start to believe everything depends on your effort, your strategy, your energy, but divine surprises rarely arrive in the middle of your planning. They appear in the pause, in the stillness, in the moments when you surrender enough for God to intervene. Tonight, the battle is not yours. The burden is not yours. The outcome is not yours to engineer. There's a supernatural shift happening right now. Not because you fought harder, but because you finally reached a moment where heaven says, "Enough, let me take it from here." God specializes in stepping into the exact moments when you think nothing is moving. When you think the story is settled, He is still writing. When you think the door is closed, He is crafting a new one. Tonight is not ordinary, because the God who created time is about to interrupt your timeline with something miraculous. Some of you have been praying for weeks, months, even years, carrying silent hopes and exhausted faith. You've whispered prayers no one heard. You've held tears no one saw. But I want you to hear this clearly. God has not ignored a single whisper. He has not overlooked a single moment where you held on by a thread. Sometimes a delay is not denial. Sometimes a delay is preparation. And sometimes what feels like silence is God positioning you for a blessing that requires timing so precise, so intentional, so divinely orchestrated that only He could arrange it. The reason you are hearing this message tonight is because heaven is aligning something for you. You didn't stumble onto this moment. You were led here. Every step, every struggle, every question has brought you into a divine setup. There's a reason the unexpected blessings of God often come at night. Night represents the end of striving, the end of activity, the moment you release what you cannot control. And it is in that surrender that God moves. When your hands loosen, His hands take over. When your mind stops racing, His wisdom rises. When your spirit becomes quiet, His voice becomes clear. Tonight, something is settling in your spirit that couldn't settle before. You are being prepared to receive what your worry once blocked, what your fear once resisted, what your doubt once clouded. God is not just surprising you with a blessing. He is surprising you with clarity, with strength, with peace, with understanding. Some of the answers that escaped you during the day will find you before you sleep. You may not realize it, but God has been preparing the ground around your life. There are things He removed because they were draining you. There are people He distanced you from because their presence was delaying your destiny. There are opportunities He allowed to close because settling for them would have blocked what He truly intended for you. Sometimes His protection looks like rejection. Sometimes His redirection looks like disappointment. But every time, His plan is bigger than what you lost and greater than what you imagined. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, God is revealing that none of your tears were wasted. Every prayer planted a seed, and some seeds only grow in the dark. Before you sleep, you will feel the confirmation that something is breaking open in your favor. You have survived pressure that tried to suffocate you. You have walked through seasons that threatened your faith. You have stood in storms that could have broken you. But look at you. You are still here, and you are not here by accident. You are here because purpose is still alive in you. You are here because destiny refuses to release you. You are here because God still intends to surprise you with a future that looks nothing like your past. What you went through was not designed to destroy you. It was designed to prepare you. And preparation always comes before elevation. Tonight, heaven is whispering that elevation is closer than you think. Promotion is closer than you think. Breakthrough is closer than you think. The blessing you stopped expecting is now the blessing God is placing into motion. There are moments when God accelerates what seems stuck. Times when he redeems years in a day. Times when he collapses seasons of struggle into sudden victory. Tonight holds that kind of potential. Something is about to shift suddenly for you. Not because of luck, not because of coincidence, but because God is stepping into the equation. There are nights when he disrupts cycles. Nights when he breaks patterns. Nights when he releases angelic assistance that rearranges what you thought was permanent. Tonight, God is surprising you with a reversal. A reversal of the disappointment that tried to define you. A reversal of the delays that tried to discourage you. A reversal of the negativity that tried to speak over you. You are entering a divine turnaround. If you have felt tired, this is your renewal. If you have felt confused, this is your clarity. If you have felt stuck, this is your release. You are stepping into a night charged with spiritual electricity. Heaven is not quiet tonight. Heaven is moving. Angels are being dispatched. Doors are being prepared to open. Answers are being sent. The right people are being aligned. The wrong people are being removed. Everything that has been resisting your progress is losing its grip. What once intimidated, you'll soon bow to the strength God is awakening within you. You are not ending this day empty. You are ending this day filled with divine expectation. Before you sleep tonight, let your heart open again. Let hope breathe again. Let faith stretch itself again. You are not at the end. You are at the turning point. God is surprising you with what you stopped believing was possible. The blessing you thought was delayed is actually arriving on time. The breakthrough you thought was denied is being released in a better form. The dream you thought was over is being revived with fresh power. Divine surprise means God is giving you more than you prayed for, sooner than you expected, in ways you never imagined. Something is shifting in your atmosphere even now. Tonight is sacred. Tonight is divine. Tonight is the hinge between the life you've known and the life God is preparing. Something is unfolding in the unseen. Something is aligning in your favor. Something is being released with your name on it. Before you sleep, expect it. Before you sleep, prepare for it. Before you sleep, open your spirit to receive it, because God is already moving toward you with the very thing you need next. And as you rest, heaven continues to work. And as you surrender, the unexpected begins to take shape. And as the night deepens, the miracle draws closer. And as your eyes grow heavy, the blessing approaches. And as you fall asleep, God continues the story you thought was finished, writing the next chapter in a way only He can, arranging every detail, aligning every step, surprising you in a way that will shift your tomorrow, unfold your purpose, and carry you into a new dimension of favor and possibility that has already begun to rise around you even now. When you finally reach the end of your day and your body begins to relax, something sacred happens inside your spirit. The noise begins to fade. The pressure loosens its grip. And for the first time in hours, you're still enough for God to reach you in ways you could not perceive earlier. There's a reason so many breakthroughs, ideas, revelations, and moments of peace come right before sleep. It's not simply because the day is ending, but because surrender is beginning. When you stop striving, stop overthinking, stop carrying what was never meant to sit on your shoulders, you create room for God to move. The divine works best in the space you make, not the space your stress occupies. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is spiritual alignment. It is a moment where your human efforts step aside and heaven steps forward. Many people think God moves when they're the strongest, the busiest, or the most productive. But the truth is, God often works when you're the most restful. It's in rest that you release control. It's in surrender that you allow Him access to the areas you tried to fix in your own strength. When the mind quiets, the heart opens. When your fears settle, faith rises to the surface. And right before sleep, you are at your most surrendered state, not back, as you force yourself to let go, but because your spirit naturally exhaled the weight you've been carrying. That is when God steps in. He doesn't move through force. He moves through invitation. And surrender is the greatest invitation you can give Him. There are things God wants to release into your life that can't enter while your hands are clenched. There are blessings waiting beyond the door of your surrender. When you let go, you are not losing control. You are giving God permission to lead in the areas where your strength was never enough. Surrender is not defeat. Surrender is partnership with the divine. It is the point where your human ability ends and his supernatural power begins. When you stop fighting the battles that are too big for you, you allow God to step into the battlefield with resources you didn't know were available. Some of the biggest breakthroughs of your life will not come from striving harder, but from releasing deeper. Right before sleep, your spirit is more sensitive. You are more open to divine whispers, more receptive to peace, more capable of hearing the guidance that was drowned out during the chaos of the day. This is why God surprises people in the late hours, because your heart is finally listening. You're not rushing, not planning, not analyzing, not worrying. You're simply resting. And in that rest, he begins to rearrange things on your behalf. The solutions you search for all day begin to form in your spirit. The peace you couldn't find suddenly settles over you. The heaviness that followed you begins to break. This is the moment where God meets you, not in your busyness, but in your stillness. Surrender also aligns your spirit with expectation. When you release what burdens you, you make space for what blesses you. When you stop grasping for control, your faith has room to breathe again. And faith is a landing place for divine surprise. Faith attracts the supernatural. Faith declares, I don't know how, but I trust you. And God responds to trust in ways he does not respond to fear. When you lie down at night with a surrendered heart, you open yourself to experiences of his presence that reshape your perspective and strengthen your spirit. You begin to sense that you are not alone, that heaven is active, that your prayers are stirring movement in realms you cannot see. Surrender before sleep is not the end of your effort. It is the beginning of God's intervention. It is the doorway through which unexpected peace, unexpected answers, unexpected breakthroughs, and unexpected blessings enter. It is the moment when God takes what you release and returns what you need. It is a sacred exchange between your exhaustion and his strength, your uncertainty and his clarity, your fear and his assurance, your limitations and his limitless power, your burden and his promise, all unfolding in the unseen as you simply rest. There are moments in life when you begin to feel like everything is taking too long. Prayers seem unanswered. Progress feels slow, and the promises you once held on to with confidence start to feel distant. In those moments, it is easy to confuse delay with denial. It is easy to think that because something hasn't happened yet, it will never happen. But what you must understand is that divine timing is not built on your schedule. It is built on your preparation, your protection, and your purpose. God never delays to punish you. He delays to position you. You are not waiting for time. Time is waiting for alignment. And when alignment comes, the blessing appears suddenly, without warning, without hesitation, without struggle. Delay is often the unseen classroom where God prepares you for what you prayed for. You may not recognize it while you're in it, but every moment of delay breathes instruction. It is in the delay that your character is shaped, your faith is strengthened, your patience is developed, and your vision becomes clearer. Many people rush into opportunities before they are ready and end up overwhelmed. But when God delays something, it means he is creating space for you to grow into the version of yourself that can carry the blessing without collapsing under it. What feels slow to you is strategic to him. You are being ready for what requires maturity, wisdom, resilience, and spiritual grounding. Without the delay, the blessing might have been too big for the stage you were standing on. Delay also reveals what your heart is truly anchored to. In the waiting, your motives are refined. You begin to see whether you are trusting the timing or trusting the one who controls the timing. When everything moves fast, it's easy to believe. But when time stretches, when answers remain silent, when doors stay closed longer than expected, that's when faith becomes real. That's when your trust grows roots. And those roots are what stabilize you when the blessing finally arrives. The delay doesn't weaken your promise. It strengthens your foundation. God is not withholding anything from you. He is shaping everything within you. Sometimes what appears delayed is actually being upgraded behind the scenes. You may think you're waiting for one thing, but God is preparing something greater. You may be expecting a small answer, but God is crafting a solution that exceeds what you imagined. This is why things take time. Not because God is slow, but because he is precise. He is removing what would interfere, arranging what would support, aligning what will accelerate, and preparing what will last. Divine timing is not about speed. It is about stability and longevity. When something is timed, it does not fall apart when pressure comes. It endures. It multiplies. It sustains you and blesses others connected to you. Many breakthroughs show up right after a long delay. And when they come suddenly. This is why you can't quit during the waiting season. The moment just before change often feels the hardest, the heaviest, and the most discouraging. That is because something is shifting. Something is nearing completion. Something is moving into position. The very things that seem stagnant begin to break open the moment your spirit is conditioned enough to receive them. The delay is not God withholding the blessing. It is God finishing the blessing. It is God preparing all the pieces so that when it arrives, it doesn't cause confusion. It brings clarity. Divine timing also protects you. Sometimes God delays you not to slow your progress, but to shield you from something that would have harmed you. A relationship you thought you wanted, an opportunity you thought you needed, a door you tried to force open. If you had stepped into them prematurely, they could have drained you, misled you, or derailed your path. Delay can be disguised protection. And what he protects you from, he often replaces with something better. When the timing is right, the blessing will not require stress, begging, manipulation, or fear. It will come with peace. It will come with confirmation. It will come with ease. Because divine timing brings divine flow. So when delays stretch longer than expected, don't assume God has forgotten you. He remembers every prayer, every tear, every desire. But he also sees what you cannot see. And in his wisdom, he moves not when you want him to, but when the moment is perfect, the path is clear, and you're fully ready to receive what he always intended for you. There are moments in your journey that felt like the ground was pulled out from under you. A door you were sure would open suddenly shut. A relationship you trusted cracked without warning. An opportunity you believed was meant for you slipped away before you could grasp it. In those moments, it's natural to feel confused, disappointed, even heartbroken. But what you perceived as rejection was often God's supernatural protection. What you saw as loss was divine redirection. Not everything you wanted was meant to stay, and not every path you tried to walk was meant to lead you forward. Some things had to fall apart because they were blocking what was meant to come together. And sometimes the loudest no is actually the most loving shield heaven places over your life. You may not realize it while you're hurting, but God sees further than you do. He knows the conversations you never heard, the intentions you couldn't see, the traps positioned ahead that would have delayed your destiny when he removed something or someone from your path. It's not because you weren't good enough, worthy enough, or capable enough. It's because he knew the weight of that connection would have slowed you down or broken you later. Protection doesn't always look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like disappointment. Redirection doesn't always feel pleasant. Sometimes it feels like loss. But every removal has a purpose, and every closed door is connected to a greater opening. You may have tried to hold on to things that were slowly draining your energy, your joy, your peace, or your confidence. But God, in his sovereignty, will not allow you to build your future on foundations that cannot carry the weight of your calling. There were relationships that seemed perfect on the surface, but would have fractured under pressure. There were opportunities that sparkled with potential, but lacked the depth to sustain you long term. There were paths that looked promising, but were quietly leading you away from your real purpose. In his mercy, God redirected you, not to punish you, but to protect the destiny within you. Sometimes God's redirection is subtle. A plan doesn't work out. A door doesn't open. A person grows distant. A shift happens that you didn't expect. And sometimes his redirection is dramatic. Something ends abruptly. Something breaks. Something stops. But whether subtle or dramatic, the purpose is the same. He is steering you back into alignment with his best for your life. You are not losing when God removes something. You are being reset, rerouted, and realigned. He does not take without intending to replace. He does not close without preparing to open. He does not redirect without guiding you towards something that matches his intention for your life. There were moments you questioned God's timing, his decisions, even his silence. But what you didn't see was the danger ahead, the heartbreak he spared you from, the energy he preserved, and the future he was protecting. You were saved from battles you didn't know you were about to walk into. You were pulled away from people whose presence would have delayed or damaged your purpose. You were removed from circles that could not carry you where God is taking you next. Every rejection carried a hidden mercy. Every disappointment carried hidden direction. Sometimes what feels like God taking something away is really Him making space. Space for something healthier. Space for something stronger. Space for something that aligns with your identity, your growth, and your assignment. You may not see it yet, but every removal paved the way for an increase. Every ending created room for a beginning that will make sense in ways your past never could. You will look back one day and realize that the things you cried over were the very things that cleared the path for what your soul had been longing for all along. You were never being pushed backward. You were being repositioned. And everything that left your life made space for what is now on its way to you. There is something sacred about the night, something deeply spiritual that often goes unnoticed. When the world grows quiet and the distractions fade, your spirit becomes more open, more aware, more receptive to what God has been trying to release into your life. Night seasons are not simply times of darkness. They are times of divine reset. They are moments when God prepares to restore what was lost, renew what was drained, and recalibrate what was misaligned. Throughout Scripture and throughout life, some of the greatest revelations and breakthroughs happen in the quiet hours, not because the night is magical, but because your heart is finally still enough to receive what the noise of the day kept out. When the day ends, your spirit becomes available in a way it wasn't before. You're no longer performing, striving, or managing everything. You are simply present. And in that presence, God begins to move. When night comes, the mind slows down from the intensity of the day. That mental slowing is what allows clarity to rise. During the day, your thoughts are often scattered, exhausted, or overwhelmed by external demands. But the night brings focus. It brings perspective. It brings the opportunity for God to speak into the spaces that were too crowded earlier. There are answers you couldn't receive at noon that will become clear at midnight. There are ideas that were blocked by stress that suddenly flow in the quiet moments before sleep. There are burdens that seem heavy all day that feel lighter when your spirit becomes still. This is not an accident. It is a design of divine rest. God restores your mind when you release control. He fills your spirit with peace when you allow the world to fade long enough to feel His presence again. Night seasons are also omens when God heals what the day wounded. Sometimes the battles you fight throughout the day leave emotional, spiritual, and mental bruises. You carry tension, frustration, fear, confusion, or disappointment. These burdens attach themselves to you, weighing down your spirit. But in the quiet of the night, God begins to untangle those knots. He begins to settle your heart. He begins to pour peace into places that felt shaken or uncertain. Healing often happens in the unseen. And some of the deepest healing happens while you rest. While your body sleeps, your spirit receives. While you lie still, God works. He restores your strength, reorders your thoughts, and prepares you to rise renewed. The night is also a place of spiritual revelation. When there is nothing left to distract you, God can whisper things into your spirit that shift your perspective. He can give you insight into decisions you've been wrestling with. He can bring clarity to questions that have been circling in your mind. He can remind you of who you are when the world has demanded so much from you that you started forgetting your identity. Night is a classroom of the Spirit, a place where God teaches, reveals, corrects, and awakens you. And often the lessons learned at night become the empowerment you carry into the next day. Renewal also happens in the night because it is the moment when your strength resets. You cannot fight every battle. You cannot carry every burden. You cannot solve every problem. And the night reminds you of your humanity in the most beautiful way. It teaches you that rest is not optional. It is spiritual. Rest is trusting that God is still working even when you are not. Rest is acknowledging that you do not have to hold everything together for your life to move forward. Rest is surrender. And surrender is the doorway to renewal. When you rest, you allow God to fill the gaps, to heal the wounds, to strengthen the weak places, to refresh the parts of you that were drained by the demands of the day. In the night, God resets your emotional capacity. He restores your mental clarity. He recalibrates your spiritual sensitivity. He realigns your heart with His intentions. And as your body sleeps, your spirit becomes more aligned with divine purpose. You may not always feel immediately, but something shifts every time you release the day into God's hands. Every time you choose peace instead of worry, surrender instead of stress, faith instead of fear, something inside you is being renewed. Night is a spiritual reset, a divine pause, a holy space, where God prepares you not only to wake up refreshed, but to step into a new day with renewed strength, renewed vision, and renewed hope. There are moments in life when you stand so close to a breakthrough that you cannot see it clearly. Everything feels intense. Everything feels uncertain. And everything seems to press against you at once. But pressure is often the final signal that something is about to shift. When you feel stretched, when you feel tested, when the path seems tight or unclear, it is usually the sign that a divine turnaround is taking shape beneath the surface. God does not allow pressure without purpose. He does not allow discomfort without direction. Whenever you feel pushed to the edge, it is not a sign of defeat. It is a sign of transition. Something is coming together in the unseen, and the very resistance you feel is often the resistance of a blessing trying to break through into the visible. Divine turnarounds rarely arrive in predictable ways. They often appear in seasons when you feel the most unprepared or the least capable. They come when your strength feels spent, when your options feel few, when your hopes feel stretched thin. That is because divine intervention is not built on your ability. It is built on God's sovereignty. A turnaround is not something you create. It is something God releases. And He often releases it when your heart has reached a point of surrender, when your spirit is quiet enough to receive, and when your faith is strong enough to hold on, even when your eyes cannot yet see movement. God specializes in sudden reversals. What was closing begins to open. What was heavy becomes light. What was confusing becomes clear. What felt impossible becomes accessible. A divine turnaround also involves alignment. It is not just about a blessing arriving. It is about everything around you starting to shift into the right place. People you need begin to appear. Opportunities you stopped expecting find their way toward you. Answers you could not uncover suddenly become obvious. What once resisted you begins to cooperate with you. Alignment is the evidence that heaven has stepped into your situation. It is God's way of orchestrating what you could not coordinate on your own. Doors that were locked begin to open without struggle.